What's up, guys? This is Nawsh, and today we're doing something a little bit different. I'm going to show you a few little tips on how I made the vocal sound in High Out of My Mind by Rachel, Erin, and myself. So here's the last chorus right here. There's the basic reverb on here.
High out of my mind, this is the type of life.
Okay, very lush, nice sound already. But there's a few issues. It does have some plosives, so I do have the RX8 deep plosive here, and then Nectar 3, which I use for a few things. First, no shame, I do use the vocal assistant typically to start. Sometimes you gotta play around with it to get where you're going, but it's a nice little shortcut. From there, I'll just go through and make sure everything's doing what it's supposed to do. The gate is actually cleaning up the in-between mouth noises and whatnot for the most part. Then we got a tiny bit of EQ, rolling out the lows, scooping the mids a tiny bit, because there's a lot going on in the mid-range in this song, and a little bit of brightness in the highs, no big deal. Then we obviously have our compressor, which all vocals are gonna have some form of compression on them. There's a couple in different points keeping this nice and tight. Then we got de-esser, super critical, and so we wanna make sure to set that at the right threshold. And then, this is the most important thing here, saturation. So a big part of the sound of this song is that kind of lo-fi, dirty, kind of grimy, almost like Basement Next Door, but it's like the after party or something kind of vibe. That's kind of what I was going for when I was making this thing. And to match that, I used a ton of saturation. That and one more de-esser on because one wasn't enough. Then we're getting a little closer to the sound we want.
High out of my mind, this is the type of life.
So now here we got that edgy kind of harshness, kind of aggressive. The last thing on this vocal that really makes it stand out and interesting is I have a send here going. And this send is going to this vocal send. First of all, I'm not going to get too deep into the Izotope vocal synth here. It's pretty complicated, but you can get all sorts of crazy vocal sounds. And then I have that actually feeding into a harmony engine. So we're creating a whole chord. I wasn't trying to get too crazy with it because I didn't want it to be like overbearing like the main part of the vocal. But with that on, this is what we get.
High out of my mind, this is the type of life. Keep taking lines better than a knife.
So I use those effects at various points during the song. The last chorus, it's on the whole time. The other chorus is on, it's only kind of on certain sections of it. It was like the way to bring the last chorus just up a little bit, tiny more aggressive. It's kind of subtle though. Beyond the main vocal, we do also have the side vocal or backup vocals. The main thing that kind of dictates the sound here is these are carved out. I'm just using this simple Pro Q3. You can really use any EQ here to just take out the highs and take out the lows to your liking. It's just two nodes here. I just dialed it in until I got it subdued enough, because these are the background vocals. We want them to be kind of away, kind of not grabbing your attention, but if you listen carefully, you'll hear that there's these other layers going on that are actually doing different things. These aren't vocal stacks. These are more ad-lib like, and that's a big part of the reason I wanted to EQ them so that they're not conflicting too much with the main vocal, so you're not getting confused. Beyond that, it's the same chain. We got deep plosive, nectar with saturation. And so with the carved out background vocals, we ended up with this.
High out of my mind, this is the type of life.
Last thing we did, I had Rachel record a whisper track, and this is very low in the mix. There's really not a whole lot going on with it. I did EQ it a little bit. As you can see, that's a pretty minimal, just kind of like adjustment there. Deep plosive and a gate, just because it's very quiet. The signal to noise ratio wasn't great, so you need to make sure to get the gate on there. Also use the mouth declick from RX on this one, because when you're whispering, you're gonna get a little more of like tiny mouth noises, like teeny little pops and clicks, which you just don't need in there. Like no one's gonna hear that really. It's just adding unnecessary noise to your mix. Last thing is DS front and center on this one. For some reason, I put this at first on these. There's not necessarily a right or wrong way or sequence to put your de-essers, but that's what I did that worked.
Out of my mind, this is the type of life.
So all the vocals together.
Out of my mind, you know the vibe. Can't we just rewind, go back in time?